Hey, Empty Without Jesus, it's Billy here. You and I haven't spoken before, and I suspect after this we probably won't speak again, but I just wanted to pick your video up because kind of having a look at what was out there on the YouTubes, I came across yours, and it's an example of everything I detest about people that get onto their high horse and start preaching to other people about what they should or shouldn't be doing with their lives. Clearly you are a committed Christian, and for that I pity you. I think it's quite sad that you've decided to spend your life using that book to back up your preconceived prejudices against others, and specifically in this case quite clearly against people that are gay. You have elected to pick up a very, very small piece of doctrine and blow it out of all proportion. You are saying that the Bible precludes people from having gay relationships. Well, it depends, because you keep talking about being a Christian, and I assume what you mean by that is a born-again Christian, and that means you follow the New Covenant with Jesus. Within which case most of what goes into the Old Testament, and therefore 90+% of what you consider to be the sin of homosexuality, 90+% of it is covered by the Old Testament, not by the New. There's very little in the New Testament about homosexuality. And what little there is comes from St. Paul, who himself never met Jesus. And you can read that in the Bible. You have got, frankly, to get over it. You bang on then and say, I'm not a professional, but I know enough about this to know that being gay isn't inherited. Well, actually, if you look at the patterns of homosexuality in the animal world, there is a strong argument to say that homosexuality bears an extremely useful purpose when there is, for example, a deficiency of females in a particular specimen group, and that is actually a useful gene to have, and so it is deliberately not rubbed out. Recessive genes aren't always destroyed. That there is some evidence that there are elements of genes and combinations of genes which produce gay behaviour is pretty well established. Is there a single gene that you can point to and say that is the gay gene? No. Sexual orientation, period, does not have a gene. And that in and of itself is interesting. I think that you have fundamentally tried to use the Bible to back up a position because either you feel threatened yourself by people that are gay, or you have feelings in amongst many of, I suspect, your confused sensations about other men, neither of which you need to have any fear about, frankly, except according to a particular interpretation of the book you're holding. And there are a goodly number of Christians, including a large number of Anglican Christians, who genuinely believe that homosexuality is not a sin. Here's the thing, and this is my biggest problem, frankly. You could not choose yourself to be any taller or any shorter, and neither can a gay man choose to be straight, any more than you chose to be straight in the first place. For you it was an unconscious decision, unless it wasn't. But for most people it's an unconscious decision. I'm straight, I fancy women. That's the end of it. You know about it very early on. Most gay men will tell you the same thing, that they realised that they were gay very early on. That's not a decision that they made. That is what happened to them. And you say in your comment section that you've met a number of ex-gays. Well, I don't believe that for an instant. What you've met is a bunch of very repressed people. The places in the United States, and they are all in the United States, that treat homosexuality do it using a selection of abstinence and Bible reading, which is psychologically very useful for conditioning the person involved, but does not address the underlying issue. It will not make someone straight. It will merely make them behave like somebody that is straight, and all the attendant problems that go with being forced to behave in a way which is unnatural to you. Do not believe for an instant that those guys are happy, well-adjusted people. They are not. And in some way, they are lacking deeply. You can, of course, elect to be celibate, and that is an entirely different thing. You can elect to behave like a straight man and go and get married and have kids even. But don't believe for a second that you're suddenly straight as a result of doing it. And here's the thing, would you prefer people to go around the place professing a belief in the Bible and being Christians when they don't believe a word of it? Because essentially that's what you're asking people to do when you're asking them to be straight and to give up homosexuality as though it's something you can just stop, like smoking. I think you are a sad and misguided person. I think it is very unfortunate that you cannot see that. I think it's even more unfortunate for you personally, a tragedy, that you cannot understand your faith in a complex enough way that allows you to take the bits of the Bible that are actually important and determine the bits of the Bible that were written as an anachronism in their time, that may have been relevant at the moment that they were committed to the page, but which now are not. I think that's very sad, because it breeds a closed-minded kind of Christianity which cannot move along, and it gets closer and closer to where, for example, Islam is today, where it's just dogma, and almost no one believes in it as a totality, because they can't, because it bears no relationship with the modern world whatsoever. I wish you all the luck in the world, and I hope that you can come to terms with either your faith or your sexuality.